Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm showing you how I made this really simple Christmas card using the new Card Critters Christmas add-on from the new Fawn release, and therefore I also used Card Critters that they released in the previous release, and then the large cross-stitched rectangle stackables. So for today's card I'm keeping the design really simple. You can call this a CAS, clean and simple card, which is truly handy when you have to create a lot of cards. Now I decided to do some no-line coloring, which doesn't make it really easy, but it's something that I really like doing. It's also something that I only do once. I never recreate a card that I did no-line coloring. I don't like recreating cards. I do make exceptions for clean and simple cards as this one, but then I most of the time recreate it with Copic markers because coloring with Copics is much faster in my case than with Distress inks, for example. So I stamped out my images using antique linen distress ink. And now I'm going to mask off the faces of the critters so that I can stamp them out using some black ink, and this way I have some guidance later on to really accentuate their faces after painting everything. So this image of the face does not really have to be that crisp because I am going to go over it with a Micron Fineliner to really accentuate everything. So I'm not worried about not having a clear stamp, but for the bear, the nose wasn't really visible that well, so I stamped it again. If you're not comfortable with doing watercoloring or doing no-line coloring, but you really like the end result, I can also recommend you to take a brown ink if you want to keep it in the brown color areas as I did. You just take a brown premium ink and then you can stamp out your images with that. If you use brown Copics, it sort of gives the illusion of no-line coloring. I shared it on my Insta stories after I tried it out, of course, so I can really tell you there were a lot of positive reactions, and people who weren't really comfortable with no-line coloring were going to try this out. I am really happy with the card that I created this way, and I am probably also going to share a picture of a card like that because that's how I am going to create multiples of this card. If you don't really know what kind of brown ink you can use, there are a lot of brown inks. There are some really soft Memento inks, but I tried it with the crunchy leaf from Fawn itself and it worked perfectly. So now on to the color choices that I did. For my critters and the car, I really wanted the browns to represent the reindeer. Of course, it's not necessary. You can also create a reindeer car without using brown on the car itself, but I was in that sort of mood to create some brown images. And then I have the red for the nose and a bluish green for that present that the bear is bringing with him. So I'm going to smoosh these distress inks onto this mat, and then I am going to do some no-line coloring. So I have a bit of water. I'm also taking a paper towel to help me get my paintbrush damp. And I'm using this antique linen again to add some color to the lighter areas or the white areas normally, except for the snow. Therefore I'm using that light tumbled glass. And then I will do what I always do. So I just take a huge amount of ink without barely any water onto my paintbrush. I bring it to my critter or my image and I go over the edges of the image there where I want more shadow to be. Then I take my paintbrush to my water and I create a damp paintbrush with the help of the paper towel. And then I drag that color out towards the rest of the image. And I just keep adding layers and layers, and that's how I do it. It's not that difficult, and I really would love to encourage you to try this if you haven't yet. I am not a watercoloring expert, but I really enjoy this technique. You just have to take your time on this and you will be so happy. Maybe it even gets to be one of your favorite ways to color images. That would be lovely. I think it's truly relaxing and it calms me down. There are days that I cannot do this because I am a bit shaky, or when I have too much stress I get shaky. So then I have to skip this technique. But I just love the way it looks, the end result. It's just like a storybook from children, and I love that. So that's why I do this. And I really want to encourage you to try it out if you haven't yet. It's a really cheap way as well, because these distress ink pads, the mini ones that I use, aren't expensive at all, so you can really go crazy with the amount of colors that you add without having to spend that much on, for example, watercolors. Okay, so that was the promo talk about this technique. But yeah, just try it out, take a leap. And if you do, I would love to see it, of course. So then let me know, text me, let me know where I can find your creations. I would love to see them. Okay, so the paper that I'm using is Strathmore Bristol Smooth. That's also because I am creating a really damp paintbrush and not having too much water to handle, so therefore the Strathmore Bristol Smooth is really handy. If you want to watercolor and, for example, add your water first and then let the ink move around as it goes, then you should better use a real watercolor paper with a bit more texture that can handle more water than Strathmore. But if you're just using a damp paintbrush, or if you're using zigs and then the blender, for example, this paper is perfect. Okay, but everyone has his own way of sort of watercoloring. This is mine. I also really like the roughness of using a damp paintbrush, and then you sometimes have a less of a smooth end result, but I don't mind that. I think it's really cute, but that's personal preference. So you do whatever feels right and whatever makes you feel comfortable and what you enjoy. Okay. So for the rest of the coloring, I am going to put on some music and I will be back afterwards. Now I'm using the matching dies to cut all of the critters out, and then I can continue on the background. So for the background, I took the large cross-stitched rectangle stackables from Fawn, and as you know me, I really like keeping the edges white when there is stitching or anything like that. So here I have placed my panel onto my grid mat, and I made sure it was aligned straight so that I could use the lines on my grid mat to place this strip of purple tape to create my grounding. And I don't know if you saw my haul that I did on my Insta stories about my Fawn purchase for September, but I also finally got the Distress Oxide Speckled eggs. I'm so glad I did that. I have waited a while to buy it, although I liked it from the moment I saw the color, just because I'm using Distress inks more lately than Distress Oxide inks. Why did I buy it? Because I love the color and I have to wait for the Distress inks to get the minis, and therefore I have to wait until 4 new colors are released, so 2 to go. So I ink blended really softly using that purple tape to guide me, and then upwards, going lighter and lighter until I finished into the white space. And then I decided that I wanted to add some splatters. So I have smooshed a bit of this ink on an acrylic block and just adding water. So my first paintbrush was really thin, so the splatters were really small. And now I have taken a bigger paintbrush to get some bigger splatters as well. And that's my background. Really simple, but still you can see that color. And when I remove that bottom purple tape, it's just, I just love it. Okay, so that's my background, and then I decided, because I was going all browns and I didn't use black ink to stamp out my images, that I was going to stamp out the sentiment using the Crunchy Leaf from Fawn, which is a brown ink, and I am so glad I did. This ink fits so wonderfully with the speckled egg. I just love it. So I'm placing it into my Misty, and I'm going to stamp out "Driving by to say Merry Christmas." So I used the car to align my sentiment, made sure it was in the middle of my panel, and then I'm stamping it out in three times because I first thought that I wanted the Merry Christmas to be below the first sentence, but then that just wasn't looking that good, so I decided to do the Merry on the second row and then the Christmas on the third one. So you see this just not working. And I'm just using the same ink for my whole sentiment, and then I can add my critters. So I first assembled the car and everyone that was going inside and all the elements of the car aside of my panel. But before I do that, I am adding the eyes and the noses to my critters, and then I can just continue with assembling everything. So for the nose, there are different places where you can add it, but I didn't want it in front of the plate. So I just did it a bit higher up, and I think it's truly cute this way. And then I thought that by just adding it to my panel that this card was finished, but you can add different small words or things to the plate, to the number plate of the car, which is truly adorable. And I decided that I wanted to add one. Now we just have to be clear about one thing, and that's that I cannot free-handed stamp something. I just need a misty. I cannot do it. I don't get it. I always mess up. But I tried it, so I messed up. So normally in the movies there is like a blooper area that's all the way in the back. Yeah, what you are going to witness in a few seconds should be completely inside of a blooper section. But okay, we're just going with it, and I wanted to show you because I freaked out. The whole panel was finished, and then I tried something and but I fixed it. And as long as I can fix it, we don't need to freak out, and we can help each other with ways to fix things. So I added this panel to my card base, and that was the moment that I thought it's finished. So I'm showing you up close, and then we are going to stamp out that wonderful little jingle bells. And as I'm not good in it, I tried it out on a scrap piece a few times. And I must admit I was quite proud of myself because it went quite well. So here it's going well, and I'm just keep trying it because I not confident. And here is my head, and then I just blurred it in some kind of way. I think I was shaking. This is a moment where I start to shake, guaranteed. So what did I do? I just tried to recreate that number plate. So I took a piece of Bristol again, and I stamped out the car, I stamped out the number plate, and it failed a few times. But I kept it in because maybe you can have a laugh with it. Afterwards I can have a laugh with it, but at that moment I was freaking out. So I'm stamping it, it's not working, and then I was like, okay, the number plate is always failing, so maybe I should start with that one. And then the bottom one I was quite happy with, so stamped the car on top of it, and then I colored it in again, just like I did previously. I took my scissors, cut it out, and then I adhered it with some liquid glue onto my panel. So this is how I fixed it, but I think in the future I will plan out the nose in front and also stamp out my little number plate as well, and then just don't take the risk anymore. So here I'm adhering it, and then this card is finished. Oh, I did put the edges inside of my ink pad to create some sort of a brownish side on it, and then I adhered it. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and the card design. Again, if you want to recreate this in any way, you want a no-line coloring effect but don't want to use watercolors, try to stamp it out with a brown ink and see whether it works like that. Okay? I hope you have a wonderful day and see you next time. Bye!